June 21st, 2008, a date forever etched in the hearts of many Filipinos. The tragedy of the MV Princess of the Stars.
Hope of finding survivors of a capsized ferry off the Philippines is fading.
A desperate search for any signs of life continues in the Philippines after more than 800 people were flipped over in this ferry during a devastating typhoon on Saturday.
A massive passenger ferry embarks on what should have been a routine journey, but nature had other plans. As it sailed straight into the jaws of Typhoon Fengshen, disaster struck, killing over 800 people and leaving hundreds missing, sparking one of the worst maritime disasters in Philippine history. In this documentary, we unravel the story of MV Princess of the Stars, a ship that met an unimaginable fate. Join us as we dive deeper into its disastrous events. Welcome to Narratium. Here we uncover the world's most unforgettable disasters and tragedies that have shaped history. Please consider subscribing to support the channel. MV Princess of the Stars was built in 1984 by Ishikawajima Harima Heavy Industries Corporation in Aioi, Hyogo, Japan as Ferry Lilac. When she entered service, she became the largest RoPax ferry in Japan, although she was not designed to be as fast as her predecessors. She began her maiden voyage on July 10, 1984. She had an initial passenger capacity of 554 people. She measured 193 meters long and had a width of 29 meters. She had a gross tonnage of 23,824. Being a large RoPax or roll-on roll-off ferry, she could carry cars and trucks and was designed to survive rough seas. She was then refitted in February 1990, a major overhaul aimed at replicating her facilities with those of her successors. Her capacity was increased. Some areas were enlarged and modernized, as well as 23 new first-class cabins, a solarium and an outdoor swimming pool at the rear. In 2004, she was retired after 20 years service in Japan. She was then bought by Sulpicio Lines, where she served as the company's new flagship. She was assigned to the premier Manila, Cebu route. She was again refitted. As a result of her refitting, her capacity was significantly increased up to 1,992 passengers from the original 554 only. Upon entry to service with Sulpicio Lines, the 193-meter vessel became the largest passenger ferry ever to set sail in the Philippines at the time. While in service with Sulpicio Lines, she had 4 years of uneventful voyages until June 2008. The MV Princess of the Stars, a 23,000-ton passenger ferry operated by Sulpicio Lines, set sail from Manila bound for Cebu, carrying over 800 passengers and crew. It was a regular trip, one that many had made before. But just hours after departure, Typhoon Fengshen, locally known as Typhoon Frank, began to intensify, gathering strength and shifting its course directly toward the ship's route. At midday on June 21st, the ferry sent out a distress signal. Radio contact was lost at 12:30 p.m. The mayor of San Fernando, Romblon, sent a speedboat and confirmed that the ferry had capsized and that several bodies had been found nearby. The total number of people aboard was initially reported as total of 747 passengers, 626 passengers, and 121 crew, 575 adults, 20 children, 31 infants, and 121 officers and crew members. However, Sulpicio Lines announced that there had been 755 manifested passengers and 111 crew members, making a total of 866. It is possible that there were more passengers not recorded in the manifest. According to an account given by 4 survivors, who managed to swim to nearby Sibuyan Island, Princess of the Stars had not malfunctioned, as had been previously reported, but ran into rough seas off the coast of Romblon. At 11:30 a.m., passengers were told to put on life jackets, and 15 minutes later, the captain gave the order to abandon ship. The ship began to tilt around midday. The survivors witnessed many people jumping into the water, while some made it onto life rafts. Many of them were not wearing life jackets, and according to the 4 survivors, the crew were more concerned with saving themselves than with assisting the passengers. After the Navy vessel closest to the area had to abort its rescue mission due to gigantic waves, pounding rain, and gusty winds, according to the spokesman of the Philippine Navy, another rescue ship reached Princess of the Stars more than 24 hours after it lost radio contact. Philippine Coast Guard spokesman Armin Balilo said, "They haven't seen anyone. They're scouring the area. They're studying the direction of the waves to determine where survivors may have drifted." By June 23rd, 4 bodies had been recovered from the scene by the Coast Guard and the Philippine Navy. Another 35 corpses and 40 survivors washed ashore at Burias Island, Masbate, the same day. It is likely that the bodies came not only from the Princess of the Stars, but also from other vessels that capsized in the typhoon. Some of the 40 survivors said they came from MV Lake Poway, which departed from Mindanao, but later sank at sea. The Philippine Coast Guard reported on June 24, 2008, says that it accounted for 115, 48 survivors, 67 confirmed dead, 747 missing, of the 862 passengers and crew of Princess of the Stars. Navy divers found no survivors inside the wreck when they entered the upturned hulk of the ferry. They found 15 bodies inside the ship's dining area and 2 others in the bridge. It was so dark inside the ferry that it was impossible to tell how many more corpses were inside. A helicopter from a U.S. military ship, the USNS Stockham, found 12 bodies floating near Masbate Island, but it was not clear if they were from the Princess of the Stars. The victims' families accused Sulpicio Lines and the Philippine Coast Guard of negligence in allowing the ship to get underway despite the bad weather. They further blamed Sulpicio for not personally informing them about the tragedy, the details of the accident, and the condition of the ship and passengers. Sulpicio Lines Counsel stated that the ship was never advised by the Coast Guard that it was not safe to sail. President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo demanded an explanation from port authorities. The Maritime Industry Authority, Marina, ordered the grounding of all Sulpicio Lines vessels, pending an investigation. Sulpicio Lines offered to pay the bereaved families 200,000 pesos or $4,500 each by way of compensation. On June 27, 2008, recovery efforts ceased due to the discovery that 10,000 kilos of the dangerous pesticide endosulfan were on board. The shipment was contracted by Del Monte Philippines Incorporated and was supposed to have been loaded onto another Sulpicio vessel, the MV Princess of Paradise. The Philippine government announced that they were considering filing charges, as it is illegal to transport dangerous goods aboard passenger vessels in the country. Titan Salvage was contracted by the owners to remove the endosulfan, along with some additional dangerous cargo in a second container. Both cargoes were located in containers in the D deck of the capsized vessel. Titan Salvage assembled a salvage team consisting of the following companies: Harbor Star, a Philippine tug and salvage company; Global Diving and Salvage, a U.S.-based diving company specializing in hazardous diving operations; and South Pacific Environmental, a Guam-based company specializing in hazardous chemical mitigation. The salvage team began the endosulfan recovery operations on September 24, 2008. By October 5th, all 402 of the 25-kilogram drums had been safely recovered from the first 40-foot container located near the aft end of D-deck in about 85 feet of water. The salvage team then removed the other dangerous cargo from a 20-foot container located toward the center of D-deck in about 35 feet of water. On October 11th, it was determined that all of the dangerous cargo located in the second container had been safely recovered. The salvage team drilled into the ship's hull to remove the ship's fuel. This phase was completed by October 17th. Approximately 200,000 liters were recovered. Once the dangerous cargoes were removed, the body recovery effort continued. From October 27th until November 10th, divers from Harbor Star and the Coast Guard recovered 199 bodies from sea, B and A decks. PCG Commandant Vice Admiral Wilfredo Tamayo stated, "We are not expecting to see 500 bodies. We would be lucky to get half of that." Divers, however, failed to enter the engine room and some other areas due to inaccessibility and danger. The bodies were stored on MV Tacloban Princess. Forensic doctors from the National Bureau of Investigation, NBI, and Interpol were waiting in Cebu City to attempt identification. The NBI's Dr. Bautista said thereafter that DNA matching, assisted and funded by Interpol, would be done in the International Commission on Missing Persons Laboratory in Sarajevo, Bosnia. Most of the initial bodies recovered had detached limbs or heads and disintegrated flesh after more than 4 months underwater. The Philippine Coast Guard reported that only 56 people were known to have survived the maritime tragedy. Around 350 bodies had been recovered, with a remainder presumed to be trapped inside the capsized vessel. By May 2010, the wreck had been longitudinally cut in half and towed to shallower waters, where divers could more safely search the interior. A further 47 sets of human remains were recovered and turned over to the National Bureau of Investigation in the Public Attorney's Office for forensic testing. The 5-member Philippines Board of Marine Inquiry, in its 65-page report dated August 25, 2008, submitted to the Maritime Industry Authority, or Marina, found Sulpicio Lines and its captain liable for the tragedy. The BMI recommended that Marina consider the suspension of the Certificate of Public Convenience, CPC, of Sulpicio Lines in accordance with existing laws, rules, and regulations, and its criminal liability for the sinking. The final report blamed human error and ruled that the ship's missing and presumed dead captain, Florencio Marimon, miscalculated the risk of continuing the trip to Cebu despite the stormy weather. According to the report, the immediate cause of the capsizing of MV Princess of the Stars was the failure of the master to exercise extraordinary diligence and good seamanship, thereby committing an error of judgment that brought MV Princess of the Stars in harm's way into the eye of Typhoon Frank. The shipping firm is found negligent for its failure to exercise its duty in ensuring that they transport passengers and cargo safely to their destination. Sulpicio Lines subsequently announced their intention to appeal the decision. Sulpicio Lines, the second-largest cargo carrier in the Philippines, accounts for 40% of all cargo movement across the country. Some commentators, such as Robert Go, former president of the Cebu Chamber of Commerce and Industry, argued that suspending Sulpicio's activities would cause significant disruption to the country's economy over the Christmas season. The Court of Appeals, in a 237-page landmark decision dated June 28, 2024, held that Philippine Span Asia Carrier Corporation, formerly Sulpicio Lines Inc., was guilty of gross negligence and consequently liable for the deaths of 814 passengers and 500 missing in the 2008 MV Princess of the Stars shipwreck. In upholding the Manila Regional Trial Court Branch 49's judgment, the CA ordered PSACC owners to pay a total of 129,854,502.57 pesos damages to the victims' heirs, survivors, families, and relatives, represented by counsel Presida Acosta.